Hi guys, I'm PUTSY, welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to talk about all the books that I've read in May 2022. And of course, as soon as I hit the record button, the rain started to pouring in quite heavily, and I don't want to wait any longer. I need to get this video out really soon. I've been putting it off for a few days now, so I'm so sorry if it's late. Also sorry if you can hear a lot of noise in the background, the rain and everything. Anyway, last month was probably one of the worst months for me in terms of reading. I was in a massive reading slump because of a couple different reasons. I have a lot of things going on in the background. I also have some important news that I was waiting for, so every time I have a free time, I couldn't focus on my reading. And the last 2 weeks of May, every time I have free time and open up a book, I was distracted because of Johnny Depp's trial and Stranger Things season 4. That's why I haven't been able to read much. I just wasn't in a mood. So I read 4 books in May. Really bad compared to the last year. I feel like, especially in 2022, I've been reading like at least 8 to 15 books a month, and now I only managed to read 4. And I was originally going to include other audiobook that I was listening to, so I could have 5, but I catch myself doing that, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. It's not about the amount of books that I managed to read. The important thing is I enjoy my time reading. I like the book, I was entertained, I get something out of it. I've been saying that I don't want to compare myself to anyone else who read more books, and I implore you to do that as well. And I didn't do what I preached, so I was like, nope, I'm not gonna do that. 1 or 5 or 20 books a month is okay. It's not about that. I mean, if it is for you, that's completely fine, but don't force yourself to read something just because you want to hit a certain amount of books, especially if you're not enjoying it. Then what's the point, really? You'll risk yourself on having a permanent reading slump, and I didn't want that. Like I said, I finished 4 books. 3 of them are audiobooks and 1 ebook, and available on Kindle Unlimited. I didn't really track how many hours all the audiobooks I listened to, but the ebook I managed to finish has 537 pages, which is quite a chunky book, so you can kind of count that as 2 books. Technically, I managed to finish 5. The first book I managed to finish is called The Hunting Party by Lucy Foley. It is an adult murder mystery thriller. I honestly listened to this book because I was really interested to read Lucy Foley's latest book, which is The Paris Apartment or something like that. A lot of people have been raving about that one. It's supposed to be really good, way better than Lucy Foley's previous mystery books, The Hunting Party and The Guest List, if I'm not mistaken. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go back and read her other mystery books in publication order. So The Hunting Party, as far as I know, is her first murder mystery thriller. I know she has other books in other genres, but correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is her first one. I give this book a 4.2 stars. It's not really my favorite thriller, but I had a great time listening to the audiobook. I will totally suggest listening to audiobook because it has a couple different voices, and it just makes the whole listening experience more entertaining in my opinion, and it's just easier to digest because every single chapter in this book are told through different POVs. By the way, this book is about, I think there's like 8 or 10 people in this group of friends who've been friends for so many years since they were in college and went on trip every single new year together. Even now, after they have their own career, some of them have married, have kids and everything, but this time their destination is very secluded, kind of untouched by city's life, with not much to do while they were there, forced to face the reality of actually they're not that close anymore. They are completely different people now, and things started to come out. Secrets starts to unravel. A lot of things going on in a span of 3 or 4 days until one of them was missing and found dead. And we go back and forth between 2 different timelines. One after this person went missing, and the other timeline we get to see them going to that place and follow along what happens in a span of couple of days there, and we don't know exactly who went missing. So as the book goes on, we have to find out not only who the murderer is and what actually happened, but we also going to find out who went missing as we follow along the stories. I think the multiple point of view in this book really works in this scenario. I usually am not a fan of too many different point of view because it can get a bit confusing. I usually a fan of just 2 or 3 point of view, but in this case I think it totally works, especially because the audiobook, every single character have different voices, so I can easily pinpoint whose point of view it is, and we're able to see a bigger picture of this entire group's dynamic and every single relationship between each of them. And I suspected different people in every single chapter. The story is full of twists and turns. It's very exciting, quite creepy as well, and also quite atmospheric. I actually like to be in that place because it seems like a very beautiful place, even though I don't really like the things that they usually do there with the hunting and everything. But the hiking, the nature in that place seems peaceful, serene, but also kind of creepy, not only because of the place and how secluded it is, but also the people in that town, and the people who work there especially is kind of sus. So yeah, but there's a lot of things to love in this book. I enjoy my time reading it. It's not the best murder mystery books I've ever read, but in my opinion, it's still a really solid mystery thriller book, and I will totally recommend it, especially the audiobook. The next audiobook I listened to is called Hookline and Sinker, which is the second and final book in the Bellinger Sisters series by Tessa Bailey. I originally wanted to read the physical copy, or at least the ebook of it, but I ended up listening to the audiobook because the first book I also listened to the audiobook, so I feel like, you know what, why not just consume all the book in this series the same way, which I don't know if it's a good idea or not, because I seem to not love it as much as other people. A lot of people give the first book 5 stars and they like the second book even more. For me personally, they are both around 4.5 stars, and I don't exactly know which one I like more. There are a couple of things I like from the first book way more, and there are a couple of things I like from the second book more, which is why it is pretty much a tie for me. This is about the sister from the main character from the first book called It Happened One Summer. In the second book, we get to follow along her sister. I also forgot her name, but I will have that here. And the main male character in this book is actually friends with the main male character from the first book, and we already got to see a lot of these two main characters in the previous one. The first one is much more grumpy, sunshine, hate to love kind of trope. And this one is more like friends to lovers. They had a lot of similarities, they really clicked, but slowly but surely they decided to, you know what, there's some undeniable feelings here. I think we should turn this into something more romantic. But of course, the main male character in this book is supposed to be a very like playboy type of character, and he is being really protective of her. He doesn't want her reputation get tarnished because of him, and she also had this crush for her boss, so he felt like there's no way she likes me, blah blah blah. And there's just a lot of back and forth, even though like it's clear you two like each other. But I also like the dynamic of these two main characters a little bit more than Piper and the other guy that I don't remember the name of. I'm so sorry, it's slipping my mind all of the name. I'm so sorry, I'm not really good with names. But yeah, I feel like they have a better dynamic, especially early on their relationship, because they started off as friends, they like similar things, and it's not just purely physical. One thing I don't really like about the first book is the first part of the book really felt like it was just purely physical, and I don't really like that, even though they ended up really redeeming themselves, and I like Piper's relationship more and more as book goes on. But in the second book, I like them as a couple first, but then it slowly kind of dimmed down a little bit, but I still really like them. So I don't know, like there's just things that I don't like in the first book, they are way better in the second one, and the things that I don't like in the second book, they are actually one of the strongest point of the first one. So just try to read both of them because they are both really good for different reasons in my opinion, but they are really fun. I like the side characters, I love the family like sister dynamic in this book. I think Piper and her sister have really great bonds, but if you are expecting to see a lot of spice, a lot of smart scenes in it, I think you will be a little bit disappointed. It's not as spicy as the first book in my opinion. These two books almost feels like they are made for completely different readers. I don't know if that makes any sense. The third book I listened to is yet another audiobook, and this time it's Exodus, the second book from the Ravenhood series by Stewart. This series quickly becoming one of my absolute favorite series of all time. I've talked about this series many times before. I binged this series on February, and then I immediately listened to the audiobook of the first one in March because I just couldn't move on. It still lingers in my mind. Every time I think about this book, it still hurts me, especially the second one, which is why I started this book actually in March, but I only able to finish it in May because I was dreading it a little bit. I stopped right before the middle part of the book. If you know, you know. I just wasn't ready to get into that mental state again. I wasn't ready to get my heart punched in that way again, so I was, you know what, I'm gonna wait. So in May, I missed it. I need to continue the audiobook, so I did that. If you want to know my opinion about this book, just watch my February wrap-up video. For the audiobook itself, 5 stars. The voice for this series are just phenomenal in my opinion. They did such a great job, especially the voice for the main male character. Incredible. Like, it was a little bit confusing to read the book because we didn't really have a clear indication of who said which line, but in this one the female and male character have different voice, so I was like, oh, she's the one saying it. I always thought he said that, and vice versa. So I was like actually getting more out of the book, but I still think you should read the book first and then listen to the audiobook. It will enhance the whole experience if you like the book, of course. And the last book I read is available on Kindle Unlimited. It's called The War of Winnipeg and Me by Mariana Zapata. I kind of made a pledge. I will use that word from now on. I pledge to read at least one book from Mariana Zapata every single month. I didn't do that last month, I believe, but this month I was like, you know what, I'm going to read this book. A lot of people said this book is one of her best one, even better than All Roads Lead Here, which makes me really excited because I give that book I think 5 stars. And Mariana Zapata, we all know she's the queen of slow burn, and this one is even more slow burn than All Roads Lead Here. Just like the Bellinger Sister series, there are a lot of things that I like more from All Roads Lead Here, but there are also a couple of things that I like more from this book. This one specifically is way more Grumpy Sunshine than All Roads Lead Here. Marriage of Convenience, Forced Proximity, I Hate Everyone But You Kind of trope, and it's also a sport romance. So the main character in this book is a very famous football player and his assistant. Again, I forget their names, so I'm so sorry. So he's always kind of cold and mean. Well, not really mean, but he doesn't really pay much attention to her or to anyone really, until one day she decided to quit her job because she wants to pursue her career as a graphic designer. And then one day, like a couple weeks later, he comes back knocking on her door, ask her to come back to work for him again. He was really persistent, but she always said no until one day he comes back, told her that he actually have this problem. He's been really stressed out about his visa in United States. He's from Canada, I believe, and he needs to find a way to be able to get a green card in United States without having to get into a different team and prolong his work visa and everything. Like, it's a little bit confusing, but long story short, he ended up asking her to marry him so he can get a permanent visa in United States. In turn, he will pay all her debts, he will give her a house and blah blah blah. So she was like, okay. So they started to live together. They started to spend more and more time together, getting to know each other again, but in a different capacity. It's always been clear that he likes her, but she doesn't really know that because he never showed his feeling to anyone. For him, his life is always been about football, his career, and he only has a couple of friends. He doesn't really visit his family. He's not a people person whatsoever, but of course slowly their feeling gets stronger and stronger and stronger. This is the kind of slow burn that is like really slow burn, because you don't get to see them really try to pursue their feelings for each other until the last 10% of the books. Like, you're just waiting and waiting for it to happen every single pages, but it's done very well. It's very much worth it. To be quite honest, the main female character in this book, for some reason I don't really like her. Well, I don't hate her, but I like the female character in All Roads Lead Here a little bit more, and the storyline in this is a lot more slow burn than All Roads Lead Here. I feel like we are able to see both of them in the same room and build a connection together throughout the whole entire book, and it's like a real romance slow burn. But in All Roads Lead Here, we get to see the journey of the main female character half of the books without Rhodes being there, and then the other half of it are about them as a couple. So in terms of romantic relationship, this one feels a lot stronger for me, but I like the growth of the main character from All Roads Lead Here a little bit more. Overall, for some reason, this book I only gave it 4.2 stars. Maybe we can kind of round it up to 4.5 stars. I still like All Roads Lead Here a little bit more, mainly because of the surrounding, the nature, the setting in that book is just phenomenal. It's very atmospheric, very cozy. I love the set in that book so much more than this one. A lot of the things that happen in this book happens in their house. Yeah, I love both of them for completely different reasons, but I will still highly recommend this. If you usually don't like slow burn, maybe you should try this one because they are like top tier in terms of slow burn. So that's it. I'm in a much better mood for reading. I already finished a book this month, which is great. So fingers crossed I have a better reading month in June, and I hope you do too. And leave a comment down below how many books you managed to read in May, and list all of them down below. I want to know. And lastly, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope this video is still somewhat interesting for you guys, and I hope I can see you in another video. Bye guys.